I was on Facebook this morning and I saw a little meme pop up and it said 10 things guitar players never say. And there's the list for your delectation. Now, of course, lots of this is a bit of mickey taking, poking fun at guitarists, and it could be drummers, it could be bass players, it could be anybody. Now, I thought it best to unpick a bit of this because I've seen a lot of these things, I've heard a lot of these things mentioned before, and I think it's important for any musician to be aware of all of these things. Let's have a look. Point 1 then. Should I turn down? Well, if you're having to ask that, then possibly yes. Now, you do get a lot of live venues where the engineer, the mix engineer, has that task of asking the guitar player to turn down. And it's for no other reason apart from having control over the live sound. So actually it's a bit silly if you don't turn down because you've essentially compromised the work of the engineer. Now, what happens with guitar is that you get a clean sound and then you get a distorted sound. And see, that distorted sound is quite a lot louder. It's louder, it's perceived as being louder, when actually sometimes, if you look at a VU meter, it's actually quieter than a loud, clean sound because of the spikes that you get with a clean sound. A guitar's sort of distorted sound is very compressed. It's basically one sort of volume level. However, we've just got to make sure that we equalise the level between clean and distorted. So an engineer will say, can I have a clean sound? And you play your clean sound. Can I have it with distortion? So that you've got that sort of ability to make sure that the whole thing is going to work. It's going to be compatible. But yes, if you've got an amp on stage and it's too loud, it's just going to ruin it for everybody else. As a guitarist myself, I've been asked to turn down on stage. It's fine, you just do as you're told. And then if you want more level, you just ask for some in your wedge monitor or your in-ear monitoring. No problem at all. I've had guitarists who just sort of argue and say, oh, I can't hear myself, I can't do that. And it's kind of, you just are hiding to nothing. Number 2, I think I'm overplaying. Now, this is a big point, actually. Lots of the other things are sort of a bit more tongue-in-cheek. I think I'm overplaying. Well, overplaying, let's just do a little demo. I've got a slow blues in A on my iPad on GarageBand for iOS, and I'm going to play the first bit of the solo as I would want to hear it, as I would want to think about it, and then I'm going to play the second half with just a bit less sort of finesse. So it's rubbish, basically. That second half of that was just, I can play a major pentatonic on A, or I can go up to the top of the fretboard and make a row. Essentially, that's what it was. Now, this, of course, also plays into the fact that we should be playing for the vocal line. We should be playing for the subject of the song. Let's say this blues is about, losing, lost my woman, yes, down the station, all that stuff. It's very tempting to answer a vocal line, especially in a slow blues like that. I woke up this morning. Is to just put something in there. Now, if you listen to somebody like B.B. King, when he's singing, woke up this morning, one note with some nice vibrato, and it just sounds really good. And you're not worried that he's not whittling about. And in fact, he wasn't a whittly player at all. He could play fast things, but it was just always in the right place at the right time. Now, number 3, no, you take the solo. Well, if you're in a band and you've got a guitar player, if you've got a keyboard player, a vocal, a bass player and a drummer, for example. Well, the vocalist is singing a solo anyway, because that's the nature of what it is. The keyboard player should have access to being able to play a solo, because it's dynamic, it makes much more sense. It means that the listener has got somebody else to concentrate on. There's lots and lots of things. I know it's a bit tongue-in-cheek saying, yes, guitarists are sort of ego-driven maniacs, but also this does play into the number one, should I turn down? So if I'm playing a solo, let's say I play 2 bars of this blues, and then I'm going to turn the volume down and play some rhythm instead. So this also plays into I'm more of a rhythm guy, point number 6. Actually, you should be both solo and rhythm. But also not making it too spiky. A couple of bits there might be a little bit much if it's, you know, a piano solo that's just got a few notes in it. So you don't want to be sort of going. Just basic rhythm will do. Now that, all I did with the guitar volume now, I haven't got any stomp boxes in front of me at the moment. That's point number 10. I don't need more pedals. I haven't got any stomp boxes. You just use the volume control on your guitar to turn it from this into that. And of course, it's still distorted, but you can clean it up further by just playing quieter or changing the pickup setting. Sort of middle position on a Telecaster for a bit more brightness. But it's cleaned up. I'm in front of an amp simulator that's got lots of gain on it. So you should be able to use your volume control. It's a really useful bit of kit, and it means you're not having to look down for your pedals, and you can look around, communicate with the other guys in the band, do all sorts of things. Playing fast is overrated, point number 4. Well, yes, I mean, I think I probably demonstrated that with that mess that I demonstrated over that blues just then. It doesn't make any sense. Sure, fast playing is quite nice to have sometimes, unless, you know, if you punctuate, if you make sure that it fits inside a particular sort of musical sentence. So if I just demonstrate that. So I just built those faster things into some bigger chunks, some slower bits. Is there any sheet music? Point number 5. Now this is not really fair. And I'm able to come at this from 2 angles. Because I'm a violinist originally, I learnt to read music when I was 5 or 6 years old. I don't remember not reading music. And I do occasionally things like, you know, shows or recordings for people where they say, here's the sheet music, expecting me to go, oh, I can't possibly, no, but got to find my chi by not reading music. And that's fine. The thing is about guitarists is that many learn in patterns. Guitar is a pattern-based instrument. It's frets. Rather than piano having white and black notes, when you're using combinations of this, you simply slide up half a step if you want to play in a different key. If you want to play from G to A flat, for example. So it's understandable completely that a guitarist would not use sheet music necessarily. You know, there's that ancient meme that says, you know, how do you shut a guitarist up? Put sheet music in front of them. And yeah, it's fine. But let's be honest, music is an oral tradition. We've only written music down for 500 years or so, a bit longer maybe. But we've been making music for thousands of years. So it's fine. It's fine. Don't worry about sheet music. You can know musical theory. You can understand all the theory without actually being able to read at all. And I know lots of people like that. And it's absolutely fine. It's just a facet of music that is taught mostly if you're playing a sort of classical music instrument. Yeah, because that's how it works. If you're in an orchestra, you've got music in front of you. That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But for an electric guitar player, not always. Doesn't matter at all. I'm more of a rhythm guy. Well, actually, point 6, you should be able to play solo and lead to equal degrees of accuracy, because actually you're in a band, you're not necessarily the leader. Actually, the vocalist, if you've got a singer, the singer is essentially the front person of your band. If you are the singer and the guitarist, then you've got to have even more abilities to be able to play rhythm while you're singing instead of just singing without playing. Lots of bands are smaller in number because actually the money's not there. You know, you don't want 6-piece band when you could do the same, make the same noise with 3 or 4 of you because you get more money. I suppose it's a bit different if you've got a horn section, but you've got to be able to cover lots and lots of bases. Now, number 7, can we try this in E flat? Well, actually, that would be more the line that a vocalist would deliver. Just imagine if you're rehearsing something in E, you've got a blues. Look, I'm this morning, look round for my shoe. And you get to the gig, and the vocalist is going, I think I'm on the beginning of a cold, but I need 50 quid. So we've got to do this gig. Can we drop it a bit? And to which the answer for everyone else, apart from the drummer, should be, yeah, no worries. So let's just go play a blues in E flat instead. And you think, well, but I can't go down from E into E flat, and it's all the frets up here. The answer is you should be able to. So it should be, instead of this, you could do this. Don't forget, you don't necessarily need that low E because you've got a bass player in the band. So it doesn't really matter if you're an E flat at all. You just have to sort of think a bit more about trying to make use of the lower notes because, of course, E flat is 11 frets up, or you'll hear on the A string or on the D string there. So the whole thing has just been sort of offset, but you should be able to do this sort of thing. And then being able to play the other notes in that E flat chord, E flat, B flat and G. It's low enough and you're in E flat, and that's fine. You should be able to do these sort of things. Of course, D is just 1/2 step lower than that, but guitarists don't mind D because it's an open chord. But you can't play low because you've only got an E. You have to drop it to D instead, or do all sorts of other fancy tunings. Now, of course, E flat is possibly not a great example for this because Hendrix played 1/2 step down, so everything was in E flat rather than in E. Stevie Ray Vaughan did a similar thing, the idea being that slightly slacker guitar strings and lower pitch gives slightly deeper tone. Fine. Point 8. This song needs piano. Thing is, I don't really get that. There is a sort of, I suppose, a sparring match sometimes between a keyboard player and a guitarist, and it doesn't mean anything because actually guitar and keyboards are the only 2 instruments in common parlance where you can play chords. Everything else is one thing only. You know, if you're a bass player, you're mostly playing one note. If you're a vocalist, you're obviously only singing one note at once. If you're a sax player, you're playing one note at once. So for a guitarist, you've got to be able to integrate with a keyboard player. So actually, and if you're playing a solo and you're in a 3-piece band, so it's guitar, bass and drums, if you're playing a solo, all the harmony is gone. Unless you're really clever with how you solo so that you're conveying the harmony at the same time as trying to sort of come up with a line. So why wouldn't you have piano in that respect? It could back you up. Point 9, wants to borrow my gear. Well, yeah, of course, musical instruments, they sort of wear with the player, if you will. But lots of guitarists are a bit precious about lending or about giving somebody a guitar. I do jam nights, and frankly, I don't care. I mean, the Telecaster, this thing, you know, it'll outlive the sun and moon. If there's the apocalypse, there'll be sort of rubble everywhere and, you know, a wasteland, and there'll be a Telecaster that's still in tune, sat on its guitar stand in the middle of it. So, I've lent this guitar to people at a gig. It's just, so I use this, and they're quite surprised because actually lots of players don't do that. And actually, if you say, yeah, sure, here's my guitar, you're more likely to get somebody who actually thinks, oh, I better be a bit careful with this, or, oh, thank you very much. It's a tricky one, this, because I mean, a guitar like this is a cheaper USA Telecaster. It's, you know, it's under £1,000, and you know, a piano at a gig, it might be, yeah, you can play the piano, my electric piano, my Roland digital workstation, which costs twice as much. Or an amplifier that's really expensive, it's virtually impossible to break an amplifier unless, of course, you just, you put bass guitar through a guitar amp, for example. So I've got no problems with lending an amp to anybody because it will come back pretty much in the same condition that I lent it out in. Of course, I'm not saying that you should lend your gear out. Of course, there's personal preference, but I don't really care, to be honest. Number 10, and finally, I don't need more pedals. Well, I don't need more pedals. And I'm a guitar player, and I just said something that guitar players never say. Sure, you can... there's always another sound. You think, oh, I love that sound, I'm going to put that on my pedal board. But my pedal board is kind of one of those, just a standard... Well, I've got 8 or 9 pedals, and that's all I've had, and it's probably all I'll ever have. So you have a wah-wah pedal, you have a chorus, there's a delay pedal somewhere, and maybe a reverb pedal. Reverb or delay. I've got reverb on the amp, I just use that instead. There's a compressor, which is really useful. I've got a drive pedal, and there's a phaser. I've got a tremolo pedal. That's all I need. I don't need anything else. And besides which, if you've got more than 3 or 4 pedals in a row that are active, it makes a bit of a row, and you've got to then sort of arrange your pedal order. And lots of people who have pedals will have, a Rode one or a Relic Strat or a Relic this, and they'll have maybe have a 70s guitar, and they've got an amp that is valve only. It's all tube, it's all hand wired. And then when you put 3 or 4 pedals in a row, you've got 10,000 transistors in the way. So, yes, is it necessary to have more pedals? Well, I don't know. If you're in a covers band and you're playing quite accurately, maybe you're emulating a guitar player or a particular song, then yes, you might need some stomp boxes. But if you're playing a bit of blues, you just need an amp with a gain control on it, and perhaps, a wah-wah pedal if you're playing some Hendrix as well. You'll often find really good guitar players who've got a tiny little pedal board with a couple of things on it because they're more interested in getting the tone, they're more interested in playing, they're more interested in interacting with the other musicians in the band. So there's my little two bob on guitar playing. I hope, make of it what you will.